So, Harry, thanks again for joining us. Fantastic to speak to you. Want to go through a few things, hopefully be of interest to our listeners. So, maybe if you could start by telling us a little bit about your role at the Taxpayers Alliance.
Yeah, well, I think I've possibly got the best role at the Taxpayers Alliance, although maybe I would say that. But the thing that makes the Taxpayers Alliance different from other campaign groups, say the Institute of Economic Affairs or the Adam Smith Institute, Centre for Policy Studies, etc., is that we do grassroots campaigning. We get out of Westminster, we go to all parts of the country. We've literally been to Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland, England, and everywhere in between. And so, as I say, normally we'd be in a town centre on a lovely sunny day like this, handing out leaflets on a particular issue. We've campaigned against stealth taxes such as clean air zones in the past. We've obviously been down to Croydon, looking at the way, handing out leaflets about the ways the council's wasted money. We sometimes do sort of PR stunts and things like that. But it's a fantastic role. You get to, interacting with the public is always fun, even when they disagree with you. What we do find, though, is many people are on our side, and many people don't know that their council or whoever in government is wasting their money, and they're quite shocked, and they all comes back to the point, well, I pay all this tax, and look where it's going. We're not getting what we pay for. So I've been doing it about 2.5 years now, and it's been tremendous fun, and yeah, I think things are, I'm pleased to say, going from strength to strength.
So that's great to hear. And so what first got you interested in tax policy then?
Well, I after coming out of university, I started my own business in IT, and you soon learn a lot about tax when you're having to try and do your tax return every year, or you soon realise how much tax you've got to pay at the end of the year. And I've always had a sort of libertarian leaning nature, and when you read in the newspapers or wherever about just how much money is being wasted at both a local and national level, it's annoying. And this idea advocated by many, both on the left and the right, and on the right worryingly so, that we need to raise taxes when the tax burden is already at a 50-year high. That deeply concerns me, when all the evidence points to that if you bring the like we saw with corporation tax, like we saw with the top rate of income tax, when you brought the rate down, the revenue actually went up. And what's always sort of fascinated me is why no government has had the bravery, I guess, to say, look, we're going to put the rates down. If the revenue goes up, great. If it doesn't, we'll put it back. I mean, who could object to that?
Absolutely. And you mentioned your libertarian views there. So back in 2017 general election, you were in charge of the Libertarian Party's general election campaign. What were your main memories of that election?
Well, I mean, it was just tremendous fun. To be honest, before I hadn't done really any political campaigning before then. Partly being busy with my own business, but I was always of the mindset before the Brexit vote that nothing really could change in this country. And I was quite shocked when the country did vote for Brexit. So I thought, well, okay, things can change. I better go and put my money sort of where my mouth is, and let's go and do some campaigning. And I've been following the Libertarian Party because they were it's a very small party, and but getting bigger by the day. But they're most sort of aligned to what I believe. Probably the next party would maybe be the Conservatives. I'm not sure. Hard to say these days. But so I was the nominating officer, and also sort of made myself campaign manager. But we had 4 candidates to stand in, all very unhelpfully in different parts of the country. One was in Portsmouth, the other was in Basingstoke, one was up in Newcastle, and the other in Hull. So very difficult to travel between them all. But we had an absolute laugh. I think we easily exceeded our expectations of what we were hoping. Having standing 4 candidates in the first place was difficult. We got our deputy leader on the Daily Politics. That was his first ever interview he'd done on anything, and he was doing it live on national television for the BBC. But we just had so much fun, and it was everything from handing out leaflets, talking to people, fundraising. It really gave me the bug for it, and it was just great fun. And our candidates only got a few hundred votes, maybe 1,000 in total between them. But what really stuck with me, actually, and I think maybe this is the key thing about it all, was, okay, yes, change doesn't happen overnight, but every single candidate said to me, I loved going into the ballot box and being able to vote for a candidate that I actually wanted to vote for, i.e.
Yeah.
themselves. And that was, that, and I think in a couple of cases, some of them paid their own deposits, and £500 a pop, and they lost those, unfortunately, because they didn't get 5% of the vote. But no, we had such a fun time, and I hopefully at some point I'll return to general election campaigning, because unfortunately the TPA doesn't get involved in elections because we are politically neutral.
Absolutely, I sympathise with them on the thought of losing your £500 deposit. So you mentioned the Libertarian Party there. Obviously, they're still in existence. Any thoughts on how they should be developing, or what they should be looking at next?
Yeah, I mean, I think they have a fantastic opportunity on their hands, and in some ways, I wish I could have stayed a bit longer. But shortly after the election, the TPA advertised for the grassroots position. I thought, I'm going to go for that, and the rest is history, as they say. I think they speak to a particularly young audience, particularly students, and that's something that a lot of parties struggle to really get on board. But I think you've been to the meetups they have in London. And I'm always amazed at the turnout. The turnout's huge in sometimes, and well, actually more often than not. And but it's always a young audience. And when you consider how low voter turnout is among students and youngsters, it's quite impressive that they are able to garner that. The only problem, dare I say it, with the younger sort of portion of the electorate is they don't have much money to give you, which is unfortunately what you need to win. But I think what they've got to do, they've got to try and build that base. I think they've got to do more to try and get themselves on radio, because theirs is an opinion that, and news for that matter, theirs is an opinion that isn't always necessarily heard, and I think it's one we should hear more of. And I think someone like Talk Radio, LBC, even local radio stations, I think they should be trying to do more to get on there and get the name out there. Any chance they have to stand at local elections where you don't have to pay a deposit, they should be doing, even if it's a paper candidate. Just getting the name on the ballot paper is the first thing to do. But I think they stood a couple of candidates, maybe it was 4 or even 5 again, actually, at the recent election, which was again a tremendous achievement. They had a really good manifesto, very well presented and everything like that. So just more of the same. But it requires people, and this is the problem. Like everyone. Well, when I was there, everyone was a volunteer, and you've got to have dedicated people who really want to push this. But they can win local election seats. It doesn't take that much to win a council seat. Sometimes you only need, say, in some cases, 1,000 votes. Some cases, like a town council, you stand unopposed. So it needs more people to put themselves forward, more people to get involved, and then you can start to make small but significant changes in a local level, and then build it up hopefully nationally.
You say that about the town councils. That was very much a strategy of UKIP at one time, which is stand where you're unopposed. Once you get elected, you'll get re-elected, and that worked for obviously a number of years until up to the referendum. Earlier on, we discussed the AXA tax campaign. What other campaigns are the TPA focusing on now and for the rest of the year?
Yeah, it's all gone a little bit. Well, it's not completely up in the air, but yeah, well, it's going to be a weird year. I mean, I think coming out of coronavirus, we're going to have to look at how we rebuild the economy and try and keep any recession as small as it can be. And our views on that are very much you need to cut wasteful spending. I think HS2 should go on the scrap heap. Quite frankly, where you've got the situation where businesses are now seeing how well their employees can work from home. In a lot of cases, you wonder what the demand for HS2 is going to be when it's eventually built in 2040 or whatever it now is. And so that's something we'll be keeping an eye on. We've also, alongside the AXA tax campaign, we've been running our Clean Up the State campaign, which is just looking at how one of the most notable examples we had recently was how the taxpayer is their money is being given to lobbying groups that then lobby the government to do a policy which the government doesn't believe in, which is quite ridiculous. So we're having a real look at some of the ways that taxpayers' money is being wasted at a sort of national level. So things like quangos, I mean, the amount of quangos we have are quite frankly ridiculous these days. But we'll still be pushing the case about council tax rises. I'll say it again. The average council tax bill in England is now £1,817, and that's just band D. I mean, imagine if you're in a higher band. These councils continue to plead poverty, and yet we still find ways they're wasting money. So we're going to keep doing it. I mean, there was a story just the other day, if I may. Surrey Heath Borough Council, former Chief Executive Karen Whelan, she was given, I think the word they used was unauthorised and unprecedented pay rise of £46,000. She billed the taxpayer for 2 stays at luxury 5-star hotels, one in Manchester, one in London. And thankfully the report has come out and she's resigned. But this is how some councils are spending our money, and it's simply not on. So we're going to be banging that gong, making the case for lower taxes, making the case for cutting wasteful spending. HS2 is just the tip of the iceberg on that. But yeah, we just keep doing what we're doing, and every week, every month, we're seeing more people are hearing about what we do. I mean, we've only been going 16 years, which sounds like a lot, but compared to some other think tanks, it's not. So the message is getting out there. More people are finding out about what we do, but we rely also on our supporters. We like tell us what's going on in your area. We'll help you, unearth the figures. We'll help you with Freedom of Information requests. We'll come and campaign. So yeah, we'll just more of the same, basically.
Fantastic. So lots about tax there, but beyond tax, what do you think are the big issues or challenges facing our country?
I think coronavirus is sort of maybe deciding that for us a little bit. But I think deficit and the debt have always been two things that I've kept a very close eye on. I mean, it looks like we're going to have spending this year could well be in excess of 1 trillion, which is, that's crazy. I mean, the national debt is around about 2 trillion, and that's before you get into all the unfunded liabilities. And I think, a real worry that's, with the economy in the perilous situation it is at the moment is we could be looking at, stagflation, erosion of the currency. Possibly if the government, I really hope the government doesn't go down the line of let's, raise taxes. There's been a suggestion of wealth taxes and things like that. Then, of course, you've got Brexit all in the midst of this, which remember that, where's that gone in all of this? And I say it's completely sort of thrown our plans sort of out the window. I'm really missing the grassroots campaigning, but the government has got to arrest this crisis. And if they, I think the latest figure is about 3 billion has been spent on, or 300 billion will be spent on coronavirus. They've got to work out how to find that money to balance the books. And if they don't, this could go on and on and on. And I think you said in the start there, we've got to do things that encourage entrepreneurship, encourage businesses, that leads to job creation. But let's see what happens.
No, absolutely. Well, fantastic. Thanks, Harry, for that. It's really good to hear your views there.